Real people, real confessions, the stories you weren't supposed to hear. Welcome to Beyond Reddit Stories. I remember the exact moment I stopped believing my mom loved me. It wasn't a big screaming match, no slammed doors, no tearful confessions or dramatic exits. It happened in the kitchen on a quiet Tuesday afternoon while she was stirring sugar into her coffee like it was just another day. I had just gotten home from school, clutching an envelope from my dream college and acceptance letter. I was buzzing, nervous, but hopeful. This was it. Years of hard work, late nights, sacrifices. Finally something to show for it. I said, "Mom, I got in." She didn't look up, just kept stirring. Then calmly, she said, "You were never going to make it to college anyway." At first, I thought I heard her wrong. Maybe she was joking. Maybe this was her twisted way of teasing she had a dark sense of humor sometimes. So I laughed, nervously. But then she turned to me, and that's when I saw it. She wasn't joking. Her eyes were cold, not angry, just indifferent. That was scarier than if she had screamed at me. It was the kind of look people give strangers in passing, the kind of look you give someone you don't care about. And then she said, "There's nothing in that account anymore. I used it." I froze. "What account?" I asked. Though I already knew. She sighed, annoyed, like I was the one being unreasonable. "The college fund. I needed it. I don't owe you an explanation." It was like someone pulled the floor out from under me. I stood there, stunned. She walked past me with her coffee, sat on the couch, and turned on the TV. And just like that, the future I had planned, worked for, dreamed of was gone. That day wasn't just about money. It was the day I realized I'd built my entire life on a foundation that never existed. The trust, the belief, the stories I told myself about family, about sacrifice, about how much a mother should love her child. All of it cracked wide open. You might think this is a story about financial hardship. It's not. It's a story about betrayal, about survival, and about what happens when the person who is supposed to protect you is the one you need to protect yourself from. If you've ever asked yourself, was it my fault? This story might be for you. I grew up believing my mom was a hero. It was just the two of us for as long as I could remember. She used to tell me my dad left before I was born, ran off with a waitress from Reno or something like that. I never saw a picture of him. Never asked too many questions. I didn't want to make her sad. She worked 2 jobs, waitress by day, hotel night clerk by, night. She always came home exhausted, her feet swollen, her eyes bloodshot, but she still made dinner, still helped me with homework, still sat through school plays where I wore cardboard wings and sang off key. And when I'd ask her why she worked so hard, she'd always say the same thing. "So you don't end up like me." That stuck with me. I wore her struggle like a badge of honor. I told myself if she could survive everything life threw at her, then I had no excuse to fail. I became the good kid. Straight A's, never skipped class, no drugs, no drama. I did my own laundry by the time I was 11, learned to cook, budget, walked to school alone. I wasn't just her son, I was her partner. In a weird way, half kid, half roommate. Like we were both just trying to get through life together. She used to brag to her friends about me. "My boy's going to college one day, full ride, just watch." And I believed her, not because of the words, but because of how she said them. Like it was already written in the stars. Like I was already someone worth betting on. We had a small apartment in a not-so-great part of town. 1 bedroom, which she let me have. She slept on the couch for years. I didn't realize how big a deal that was until much later. On my 13th birthday, she handed me a small bank booklet, said it was a savings account she'd started when I was a baby. "It's not much now, but we'll keep adding to it. It's for college. Promise me you won't touch it." I promised. Of course I did. That booklet became sacred to me. Every time she dropped in another $20 or $50 from a tax return or a holiday tip, she'd show me the balance. We'd dream together. UCLA, she'd say, or maybe Georgetown if you get fancy. I started applying for scholarships the moment I turned 16. Took AP classes, volunteered at the library, joined academic decathlon, even though it made me want to throw up from stress. I wasn't a genius, but I was relentless. Some nights, when she worked late, I'd stay up studying until 2 a.m. with a cold Pop-Tart and cheap instant coffee, thinking, this is for her, this is for us. And here's the thing, nothing felt unusual about that. I thought this was what love looked like, what sacrifice meant. Me doing everything I could to prove I was worth her struggle. Her pushing herself to give me the one thing she never had a future. We weren't perfect. There were fights. Sure, she had a temper short and sharp. Sometimes she'd disappear into herself for days. Sometimes she'd drink a little too much and cry over bills she tried to hide from me. But I never stopped trusting her, not once, not until that Tuesday in the kitchen. Looking back now, I realize something cruel about hope. It can blind you. When you want to believe someone loves you, you'll excuse almost anything, and I did. Senior year felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, and finally seeing the bridge being built. I got into my dream school, University of Michigan, not Ivy League, but to me, it might as well have been. I remember holding the acceptance letter in my hands like it was made of glass. I ran home, bursting through the front door, breathless. She was at the kitchen table, paying bills. I dropped the envelope in front of her. I got in. She looked at the paper, then at me. No smile, no hug, just how much. It wasn't the reaction I expected. I thought she'd cry. I thought she'd be proud. I had spent years believing this moment would mean something to her too. I said, "They gave me partial aid. We'll need to cover the rest, but I figured we'd use the fund, right?" She stared at me for a beat, then sighed, tired, heavy, like I was asking her to do something impossible. "There is no fund?" Those 4 words, they didn't hit me all at once. At first, I thought she meant we couldn't afford it, that maybe she hadn't saved enough, that she was embarrassed. I said, "It's okay. Whatever's there, we can make it work. I'll apply for loans. I'll get a job." She cut me off. "No, I mean it's gone, all of it." "Gone?" My stomach twisted. "What do you mean, gone?" She stood up, walked over to the sink, started washing a plate, like it was any other Tuesday. I needed it. It took everything in me not to scream. I asked her over and over again what she meant. Was there an emergency, medical bills, rent, debt collectors? No, she used it to invest in her boyfriend's car wash business. That same boyfriend who wore fake designer watches and called me sport. The same guy who once asked if I was one of those soft kids who majored in poetry. I was stunned. "Mom, that money was for school." "Don't be dramatic," she snapped. "You think college is some magic ticket? You're not cut out for that world." That hurt more than losing the money. She wasn't just doubting the plan. She was doubting me. Me, the kid who stayed home while other kids partied. The kid who never asked for new shoes or expensive tech. The kid who built his whole identity around making her proud. "You'll just waste it," she added, casually drying her hands. "Like your father, thought he was some big shot. And now look." I couldn't breathe. I couldn't speak. Everything in me wanted to yell, throw something, demand answers, but I didn't. I walked out. I walked until my legs gave out and I ended up on a park bench 2 miles from home, staring at nothing. I remember texting my best friend that night. "I think my mom just gave up on me." He replied with 3 words. "Come stay here." I didn't know what to do. How do you process something like that? This wasn't some faceless system screwing me over. This was my other. The person who taught me to never lie, never steal. The person who said she believed in me more than anyone else. And now she was telling me flat out that I didn't deserve a future. But here's the cruel irony. Even then, a part of me still wanted her approval, still hoped she'd change her mind, still believed, somewhere deep down, she loved me. Maybe that's what betrayal really is. Not just someone breaking your trust, but you, breaking your own heart, trying to hold on to it. I didn't sleep that night. I laid on my friend Jason's couch, staring at the ceiling fan spinning above me like it might offer some kind of answer. I kept hearing her voice. "You're not cut out for that world." Over and over again, like a skipping record I couldn't shut off. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about everything else that collapsed with it, every memory, every sacrifice, every moment that once felt sacred between us. The next morning, I woke up and told Jason I was going to drop out. He just looked at me and said, "You're not seriously letting her win like that, are you?" That stuck with me. Letting her win. I hadn't thought of it that way. I'd been too deep in the pain to see it as anything but a loss. So I got up, not because I felt strong, but because I didn't want my story to end there in a borrowed hoodie, on someone else's couch, defeated. I started working full-time at a diner downtown. 6 a.m. shifts, burning grease smell in my clothes, rude customers, sore feet. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. At night, I picked up extra shifts cleaning offices, empty hallways, silent copy machines, and time to think. I enrolled at a community college with no idea how I'd pay past the first semester, but I figured I'd deal with that when I got there. Some nights, I cried in the break room, not because I was weak, but because grief doesn't come all at once. It comes in waves, quiet ones, like when you see a mom helping her kid with homework at the next table, or when someone asks, "Do your parents live nearby?" One day, a professor pulled me aside after class. She said, "You write like someone who's had to grow up too fast." I didn't know if that was a compliment or a diagnosis, but it lit something in me. I started pouring everything into writing, short stories, essays, letters I never sent. Words became the only place I didn't have to explain myself. They just got me. Eventually, I submitted an essay about my mom. Didn't name her, didn't dramatize it, just told the truth. It won a small scholarship, just $500, but it felt like $1 million. That night, I sat alone in my dorm room, holding the check and crying. Not because I missed her, but because I didn't. I tried calling her once, months later, not to reconcile, just to hear her voice. She didn't answer. I never tried again. Some people think forgiveness is about letting someone off the hook. But sometimes, forgiveness is deciding they no longer get to define you, that you don't need their apology to move forward, that their absence doesn't leave a hole, it makes space. I transferred to a state university after 2 years. It wasn't my dream school, but by then, I didn't need dreams. I had direction. I knew what I wanted to make something out of the broken pieces. Every step was hard. Every semester came with fear I'd have to drop out, but I didn't. I wrote my way through it. I worked, I learned, I healed. And slowly, I became someone I was proud of. Not because I made it, but because I didn't quit when quitting would have made sense to everyone. The truth is, I still think about her. Not out of hate, but out of wonder. How do you do that to your child? How do you destroy the one thing they trusted most, your belief in them, and walk away like it never mattered? Maybe she was broken too. Maybe she thought she was saving me from failure. Maybe it was easier to sabotage me than face her own regrets. I'll never know. And maybe that's the hardest part. Closure doesn't always come in the form of an apology. Sometimes, it comes in the form of walking your own path and never looking back. I didn't become a millionaire. I didn't walk across a stage with cameras flashing and people chanting my name. But I did walk across one. It was a modest graduation, community center gym, folding chairs, lukewarm applause, the kind of ceremony where no one knows who you are, but you know exactly what you've survived to be there. I wore a second-hand cap and gown. My name was mispronounced. But as I stepped up to receive that diploma, I smiled. Not for the crowd, not for the photos. But for me, because in that moment, I wasn't the kid whose mom stole his college fund. I wasn't the kid who slept on couches or cried in broom closets between shifts. I wasn't even the kid who needed to prove anything anymore. I was just free. I work in publishing now. Small house, modest salary, ramen nights, and rent that eats half my paycheck. But I'm doing work that matters to me. I get to read stories, shape them, help people say what they've always wanted to say. I get emails from kids, sometimes strangers, who've read my essay and say, "Hey, I think I've lived this too." And that means more than any check ever could. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Not all success stories are loud. Some are quiet. Some look like choosing not to become what hurt you. Some look like becoming the parent you never had, even if only to your younger self. I don't talk about my mom often. People ask sometimes, "Are you too close?" I usually just say, "It's complicated," because it is. I don't know where she is now. Last I heard, the car wash failed. Her boyfriend left. She moved cities. There's a part of me that still wonders, has she ever regretted it? But I don't wait for that answer anymore. Regret is her burden, not mine. I used to think being abandoned made me broken. Now I know it made me brave. There's a strange freedom in losing everything. You realize the only person you ever needed to believe in you was you. And if someone out there hears this, wondering if they're enough without the approval of the people who hurt them, let me tell you, you already are. You don't have to earn worth. You were born with it. They don't get to decide your value. They don't get to write your story. You do. You know, if you told me 10 years ago that a scared little girl who hid under her bed from her father's footsteps would grow up to hold space for others, to work in a shelter, to speak in courtrooms, I would have laughed, or cried, or both. But now I know something I wish someone had told me back then. You are not the shame they made you feel. You are not your father's voice. You are not what happened to you. You're the story that continues, the one that breaks the cycle. You are the one who chooses softness, when all you've known is steel, and that is power. If you're still living in a home that feels like a cage, or if someone makes you feel smaller than you are, please don't wait for it to get worse. You don't need to justify your pain before seeking help. Hurt is enough. Your voice is enough. You are enough. Reach out to a friend, a teacher, a hotline. Anyone who sees the you beneath the fear. The world isn't perfect, but it's filled with people like me, survivors, fighters, builders. We're out here, waiting to remind you. You are not alone. And if this story meant something to you, share it. Someone out there might need it more than you know.